Welcome to Brainstorm MTG. I'm ELD, and this is Fast Effect, double speed Magic the Gathering, this time from Scholars Games in Brockton, Massachusetts, part of the Wednesday Night Legacy series. And Storm here looks likely to mull. I don't see any lands in that hand. That's going to be tough to keep. Lotus Petal and some accelerants, but not enough to cast that ad nauseum. So close, but so far away. Going to have to ship that back. Turbo Depths, not often respected as much as it should be in terms of being a combo deck in Legacy. I suppose other decks do things a little bit more flashy. There are other Dark Depths builds that get a lot more respect, but Turbo Depths has started putting up a little bit better results, and I contend that it has been a strong deck all along, particularly forgiving as far as combo decks go. I often say there's no easier matchup in Magic than a bad combo player. It's literally the type of deck where somebody can kill themselves or leave lines on the table that would have left a victory. Very different in terms of the play skill and the consequences of misplaying. You can only play so badly when you're turning creatures sideways, and of course there's a pretty big range of the in terms of how forgiving combo decks can be. Turbo Depths. Definitely straightforward in a lot of ways. I think the mulligan decisions are probably amongst the most important in the deck. Really understanding how quickly you can assemble your combo, what potential disruption you may be facing, and whether or not a 2020 is going to be good enough in that time frame, or whether or not you need to ship it back and try and do better. Thoughtseize here, seeing Thoughtseize, Lotus Petal, Lion's Eye, and Dark Ritual. Really 3 of the 4 premier accelerants in the deck. The only thing we're missing there is Cabal Ritual, actually, I think the strongest card in the deck. But Thoughtseize has to go. So Jeff trading Thoughtseize for Thoughtseize. Underground Sea, and not able to do anything with it there. I may end up trying a different build, the builds of Storm that are running 4 Chrome Mox, 4 Rite of Flame, and being essentially all in on the Empty the Warrens plan. Definitely a lot more forgiving, and it might be fine in the current meta. I'm actually completely in the opposite direction with this. I'm running a pair of Tendrils of Agony main deck, and that actually allows for, I believe, a stronger matchup in the control element. You can have multiple Tendrils to double Tendril somebody out. You can Infernal for a Tendrils, and you can do things with a much lower Storm count, especially with the power of Cabal Ritual. But you see here, Jeff has just built his mana base. Forest, Anabayu, couple of Lotus Petals. He's got the Dark Depths in hand. Matter of finding either Vampire Hexmage or Thespian Stage. ESG, ooh, and Crop Rotation being fired off here during the end step. Grabbing Thespian Stage. Oh, was it possible for him to have that Dark Depths down? Very interesting. I'll have to rewatch that after the video here and see, now that that's been revealed that he had Crop Rotation. I wonder if it's possible that we are a turn behind here with Jeff. Getting that Dark Depths into play may have been preferable. He does have an excess mana, so even if he could have used a Lotus Petal earlier, would have been fine. Duress grabs a... ooh, and another Lotus Petal. It does feel like perhaps we could have seen an earlier Merit Lage, but passing the turn, here's a 2020. It's not going to matter. Storm in Game 1... absolutely not going to have any answer to this. So 2020 connects, and Storm goes down in the first game here. See if it can force a Game 3. Chain of Vapor and Echoing Truth, very strong versus Merit Lage itself. And those cards are actually going to come in versus Turbo Depths because of the Merit Lage for certain, but even versus lands, you are going to be bringing those cards in. They are incidentally good against Merit Lage in that matchup, but there you're actually more worried about the artifacts that they bring in. Cards like Thorn of Amethyst, Chalice of the Void, Sphere of Resistance. Thorn is the most popular for the most part, often because they bring in Tireless Tracker as well. And they don't like to price themselves out of that card. It does give them a completely different line to victory that is even grindier with all of those clue tokens. Jeff going through, recognizing his Pithing Needles are absolutely terrible in this matchup. Only going to stop mana abilities. I'm sorry, not going to stop mana abilities. So Lion's Eye Diamond and Lotus Petal are not suitable things to name. Really, all you can go for there is the fetch land mana base, and that is iffy at best. You really have to be certain of what your opponent's mana base is there. In Storm in particular, you probably can bet that they would have 4 Polluted Deltas, but those other fetches are anybody's guess. So really, the best case scenario is hoping, I guess, that you can sneak that out and start playing Mana Denial in your combo deck. Not a great plan, especially not if Jeff is actually running Polluted Delta himself. Verdant Catacombs, the go-to for Turbo Depths. You need black and green. After that, I am not actually sure which direction they go in. I'd presume needing the black mana. All right. Fetching here, leading out with the Duress, turning it into another slap fight here. Both decks trying to hobble each other. Here we see double Vampire Hexmage with the Dark Depths, an Elvish Spirit Guide, and Sylvan Scrying. Sylvan Scrying, the easy choice here. Marsh Casualties certainly would stop the Empty the Warrens plan, but looks like Storm is going to have to play a bit of a control route here, unless it's able to sprint past this 2020. Now, it's worth noting here, no black mana. So those Hex Mages not great yet. Dark Depths looks like an Elvish Spirit Guide in hand. If he's got another Spirit Guide, we could see an end step 2020. Oh, and he has Crop Rotation during the end step. And that's going to grab Urborg. And that feels like it would have been better main phase. If he had Crop Rotation during his main phase, I believe he would have been able to cast the Hexmage last turn, and then made a 2020 during my end step. So it appears to be a turn behind again. Definitely send this over to Jeff after, and he can assess his own play there, see if there are other reasons why that didn't happen. We don't have perfect information with his hand. Can't think of anything now. So during the end step, makes a 2020, and Chain of Vapor is waiting for it. Returning a non-land permanent. It is indestructible, but it is in the ether here. Another Dark Depths off the top like a savage, and we've got Vampire Hexmage ready to make back-to-back 2020s. Oh, but we see Echoing Truth in hand, along with a lot of accelerants here. This may actually be a question of whether or not it's time to go for broke, or just to make that devastating play again and return 2020s in back-to-back turns. Turning the 2020s might be more fun. Tough to assess when you're using that type of metric. And it looks like just going to go full tilt here. Duress, grabbing that Marsh Casualties. We see Sylvan Safekeeper and Vampire Hexmage. Good information to have that the Safekeeper is in the deck. Dark Petition. Storm 4. 2 black floating. Going to get 3 black from the Dark Petition. And Infernal Tutor, and that should do it. Past in Flames. Gonna be lethal. There's a whole bunch of acceleration there. And this particular build of Storm, very much a Past in Flames deck. I think that element of it did get stronger with the passing of Deathrite Shaman out of the format. And here we have 9 black mana and a Storm of 9 with Infernal in the graveyard. The rest is just academic. Of course, if you do have excess mana and your opponent has excess life, you can chain Infernal into Infernal into Infernal when you are Hellbent to get that extra Storm. That's the most efficient way of doing that. But not necessary at all there. So Jeff, a turn behind. We are tied up at 1 apiece. Going into Game 3, the winner of the match here will place in the money. This is not the proper finals of the match, of the tournament, but our tournaments do pay out to X1. Both players here with a loss. Storm been putting up very good results in general. Really not hurt as much by the loss of Gitaxian Probe as the Grixis decks. Certainly Young Pyromancer, I think, suffers the most from not having Gitaxian Probe in the format. Cabal Therapy as well takes a massive hit. But these Storm builds in general, there's so many different ways to build it. Gitaxian Probe, a very welcome addition in general, but far from a necessary card to make these work. Manaless Dredge, on the other hand, that remains to be seen if that deck can function without Gitaxian Probe. And that is just all fire right there with a Past in Flames. An Infernal Tutor in that mix would be absolutely game over. But instead, that has to go back. All I'll be able to do is play a bunch of mana and then replay it all. And Turbo Depths really does want to have a turn 2, maybe turn 3, 2020. Would potentially keep a slower hand with some elements of bounce, but as we saw, Sylvan Safekeeper could be a trump to that strategy. So it is far from a guaranteed lifeline. And then we go Urborg, Lotus Petal into Duress. And seeing a hand of Empty the Warrens, a pair of Preordains, and that Chain of Vapor. Empty the Warrens. Oh, interesting. Taking the Preordain. So really trying to stymie the hand development. That makes me wonder if there's more discard to come. A Chain of Vapor will need to be handled. And Jeff apparently at this juncture not worried about an explosive Empty the Warrens. Polluted Delta is being cracked. Underground Sea into Dark Ritual. Lotus Petal, or Lion's Eye, empty. So just YOLO 8 goblins trying to set a 4-turn clock. And he's got Marsh Casualties in hand. So kind of walked into that one. It may have been an indicator with him not taking Empty the Warrens that he had the solution already. Now at this point with double Lion's Eye Diamond, almost any business spells could become game enders, grabbing Ad Nauseam. And if things get very desperate, we may actually see something like a Ponder crack both LEDs in response, see what happens. That is a gruesome line, but sometimes you have to take it. Another land, and Jeff floundering here, unable to find a Dark Depths. So this defensive hand of his with Duress and Marsh Casualties. Not activating the Thespian Sages during the end step. With a pair of Thespian Sages, I really wouldn't mind him targeting a fetch land with the Thespian Sage just to untap and thin out his deck. course, that's not the type of play Turbo Depths usually wants to be making. Usually it just wants to be making Merit Lages. And starting out here with Brainstorm. Second spell of the turn. Trying to cantrip our way through. Ad nauseam would be fantastic. And just stuck with duress. And we'll see what he's got here. Now, duress not as strong as Thoughtseize in this matchup. He does have Vampire Hexmage as part of his combo pieces, as well as Sylvan Safekeeper to protect it. So when sideboarding, it is likely that you want to leave in Thoughtseize over duress if you are trimming on your discard. And it is fairly reasonable to pull back on discard. The Turbo Depths very much committing to the board very quickly. And crop rotation is going to set up a 2020 here. No, he's actually using it to grab Bojuka Bog. Surgical and Marsh Casualties with an Urborg. So still playing around that Chain of Vapor in hand. Very interesting here. Sylvan Scrying. Now that finds the Dark Depths. Marsh Casualties and Urborg in Jeff's hand. Trump cards in the Gripper for Storm. Gonna be able to KO this Merit Lage. If he does make it, quite an impasse. He's gonna need some discard to rip that bounce out of my hand, or a Sylvan Safekeeper. And there's the Thoughtseize. We see two bounce spells, Echoing Truth and Chain of Vapor, along with Dark Ritual and Cabal Ritual. So it really is go time as soon as a business spell is drawn. Island off the top, no help. Vampire Hexmage. Not a huge difference there. It does set a 9-turn clock if we continue to flounder. This will chip away. It also does put a little bit of downward pressure on Ad Nauseam. Ad Nauseam from 10 or so does start to get significantly worse. Oh, and there's the Sylvan Safekeeper. So he's done it. He's drawn protection for the Merit Lage. See what happens here. This is the turn. Oh, that fetch land's actually a mistake. It looks like there's an island in hand, and I believe that represents all of the islands in the deck. Let's see what else is going on in the hand. Definitely an error in the mana base. Hexmage makes a 20/20. So we're in the end step. It looks like this is going to do it. He turned sideways, Echoing Truth fired off. A land sacrificed. That does protect it, and that is the game. And Turbo Depths taking it down in an unusually long Game 3. That's all for this one. If you enjoyed the video, please help grow the channel by subscribing. You'll be notified when we upload new videos like Fast Effect, Double Speed Magic with commentary, or Untapped, our raw tournament gameplay. Thanks for watching.